What's going on, YouTube? We are back after a little hiatus. Apologies, my fault. I was at Money in the Bank last week, so we couldn't get going, could we, my friends?
I don't blame you. It's how often does that come into your backyard?
I know, never.
I started Sunday off with a really dirty joke right there. So anyway,
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
How often do they come in your backyard? Yeah, they come in your backyard. Anyway, happy Sunday, happy Lord's Day, everybody. That's all right. Andy was out on the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and it looked awesome. And I thank you for sharing that video. That was really cool. I like getting that feel as far as what you partook in.
Yeah, Ashton was the start of the show, though, wasn't he? Let's face it.
That's what it's about, right? But that's what it's about. And he just had the time of his life, and that's cool. And AJ Styles seems to be like a really good dude.
Oh, mate, such a nice dude. Such a nice dude. He's really, really nice to Ashton. So can't thank him enough.
Awesome.
Can't thank him enough.
Now we went back to the future, I guess you could say, or back to the past, and we went into.
I think what you could say is last weekend I watched a really good pay-per-view, and then this weekend I kind of come back to reality.
Yeah, it gets to the point where we go, hey, look, we're going into the Attitude Era, and this is also involving WCW, and then you realize why WCW kind of went out of business, but it's not like they didn't try to grab another audience. So we are going into Bash at the Beach 1998 here. It was a pay-per-view picked by you. I won't crucify you for it because, look, we've been on some pretty good streaks here. But
yeah, and also just to make a thing there is you haven't always been the best at picking, and I think this was a bit of payback for the Lethal Lottery back, my friend.
Lethal Lottery had its high spots, but this is payback for double tables. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
All right. But anywho, July 12th, 1998 from the Cox Arena. So we're almost at the 25-year mark for that. And we look at a card that was, I'm not going to say put together last minute because there was a lot of seeds of things going on there prior as far as promotion goes, and we'll get to that, and getting some stars that crossed over from the world of NBA. But we're going to go into this time where Bischoff all of a sudden made this huge change on prior Monday, which to this day is something that's really scrutinized by wrestling fans and executives too. And I have a feeling that somebody else that's running a company will do the same thing. But anyway, we're going to start it off. Bash at the Beach, 1998. Give me an overview on this. What were you doing in 1998?
1998, I was in high school. I think I had 2 years left at this point. Obviously, you American lads go a bit longer than what we do. But I think I had like 2 years left. I think I left in 2000. So I would have been in like year 9, I think it was. So, yeah, I was fully fledged teenager at this point. But yeah, not in 1998, there was not really much a lot going on. I think, if I remember rightly, I think it was a bit of a dead year.
No, yeah, not in cinema, though. Saving Private Ryan, Good Will Hunting, Armageddon, American History X, Rush Hour, which is still a very underrated movie. And your favorite, the Godzilla with Matthew Broderick, who actually killed somebody, but nobody likes to talk about. Remember when they covered Kashmir?
Yeah. We did have the World Cup in 1998 as well, which was good. But obviously England, as always, got knocked out. So,
but you were happy to be there, just like a bunch of other people at this pay-per-view.
Although, a little shout out to the Young Lions yesterday. The England under-21s won the European Championships.
We're going to give old Barry Horowitz pat on the back for that one.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, anyway, let's get into this then, unfortunately. First match on the card, we had Raven with the Flock, and he was going up against Perry Saturn. Dale?
This is a weird time because this is when there's dissension going on. Ever since Goldberg, I guess you could say, got into really killed the momentum of the Flock, that's when there was dissension going on with the Flock. And I heard somebody bring up not too long ago on a show, how come we never had the Flock interact with the NWO? And I tried to think about it, and it never happened. You would figure if you have two different types of stables and groups, they would interact at some point. not gang war style, but the fact that they never did anything with each other is kind of odd. But nevertheless, we have Raven going over on Saturn. Good match. All right. As we like to crap all over this pay-per-view, this was a good match. With Saturn, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get unorthodox moves that make sense. You're going to have Raven that sells, knows how to sell, probably one of the best characters in wrestling ever, and probably one of the best minds, too. You and I have talked with other people that have actually said that if they're starting a business, they would have Raven on the forefront as far as booking. And everything I hear from him afterwards with shoot interviews, I agree with him.
Yeah. I watched, do you know what? Funny enough, I was listening to a Paul Heyman chat the other day about Raven, and he was saying that, how him and Raven come up with the whole concept and the idea, and the problem was nobody was ever going to get it over apart from him and Raven. And he was right what he was saying.
I couldn't pick out anybody else in that locker room besides Scott Levy that would actually be able to, shoot names now, that would actually be able to pull it off. I mean, I can't imagine Sandman being Raven. No. I couldn't even imagine Dreamer being Raven. I like Tommy, but I never could get behind him really so much. I don't know why. As much as I love ECW, I understand he was the heart and soul. But anyway, Raven was just still over at this point. We'll see later on in the year where it kind of turns for the worse for him, and it doesn't make any sense. But then they try to pick it up again. Just a great character. Really good match. I think they started off with a banger here.
Yeah, they did. It was really, really good. And it just done what it needed to do. So can't really say more than that, my friends.
No, sir. Lead to the next match after Raven wins. Got Juventud Carrera and Kidman going one-on-one. Again, as we go through this, I'm going, this is 2 for 2. These are good matches. And they've had this matchup, I feel like, all the time. It was like every other week between these two.
Well, do you know what? Yeah, they did. And it never missed. Never missed. It was always a really good match. And, you can't, what can you say about it apart from the fact that these two always delivered? You knew if you needed a solid match on the card, you could get it out of these two. Nothing wrong with it at all. But I was thinking about Kidman, and I was thinking to myself, why did he never go any further than what he did? Because he was really good.
It had to be size, but you look at him. He doesn't look. He looks like a stocky type of cruiserweight. He looks like somebody that's actually built. Not saying that cruiserweights aren't built, but he had a lot more tone and beef down here than a lot of other guys. Just totally fit. I don't understand how he wasn't somebody that wouldn't have some sort of push behind him, especially in WC and WWE when he came in. But then I'm looking also at, when he did team up with Paul London for a while there, they did give him his pushes when they needed to. And I think that they'd like to actually have him be on the forefront of a lot of cruiserweight matches. But I think that's the only staple that they had him for.
No. That's it, and that's what I think with him is. It's just a shame because like Rey Mysterio and that were great, but Kidman was really, really good. But he didn't last very long either. He didn't have a lot of longevity, Kidman.
He did the right thing and actually went into booking and producing too. When he went in that role, I mean, think about it. I mean, he already accomplished what he wanted to accomplish, and that was Torrie Wilson.
That's it. Well, that's the big achievement on its own, isn't it?
That's the best mountain to climb.
Although, like his career, there was no longevity in it.
That's debatable. We could let's talk with Torrie at one point.
Oh, tell me about it. All right, well, we'll move on, and this is fantastic. This one, go on, Dale, hit it out.
Oh, so there's. Okay, you and I haven't really gone into it, but how over Chavo Guerrero has been. And, of course, it's one thing. I think you and I discussed the Eddie Guerrero tutorialship that he has over Chavo, doing the lying, cheating, stealing spots, and just winning at all means, by all means, I guess you could say. Chavo, at this point, has to win this match against Stevie Ray, or else he's cutting his hair. Chavo doesn't care. Chavo ends up losing the match purposely. or at that point, just ended up he needed to win the match to actually not face Eddie for a hair versus hair match, or was it hair versus career? Yeah, it's hair versus hair match. So he loses against Stevie Ray. Then Eddie comes in the ring. The spots here are hilarious between him smacking Eddie in the butt and Chavo just being so over. There got to the point where I'm actually sitting there going, could Chavo do no wrong for the crowd? Like, the crowd was eating up everything he was doing, and he was probably one of the more entertaining people during that era. And I'll say during that era because this guy didn't really have to do much out there. I mean, he'll even tell you like his wrestling prowess isn't at the par with his uncle or a lot of other, like maybe other family members. I don't know. I can't dictate that, but I do believe that Chavo was somebody that could have been a marketing machine, especially with Pepe the horse.
Chavo was really good, wasn't he? Really, really good. Got a great man for the business and all the rest of it. Even when he come out there with his water gun and all like that was just quite cool, wasn't it? But yeah, this bit with Stevie Ray, it was just thingy, and he still had to face Eddie, but I think Eddie was hoping that Stevie Ray was going to do a number on him before, and then Eddie could just sneak in and get him, you know. And then the other bit at the end where he goes nuts and kind of like, I've had enough, and he starts shaving his head.
Yeah. They finally did it right, because you can't really do that with just scissors. You have to actually do that with a buzzer. So they did aesthetically, it looks better with the buzzer, and it actually looks like it works a little bit more. But that's something as far as Pride goes. They still do the hair versus mask matches in AAA, I guess you could say, or AAA. I think it's something that is timeless, though, and I love it. Great, very fun, though. And the thing I like about Eddie is that even though he's still winning, he still is so pissed off, because it's like, you lost potential. He's at the point where he's just like, hey, I don't understand. Like, I'm teaching you, and you're just being you, even though you're kind of successful at it. Yeah, just fun stuff here. Just fun stuff. I wonder if they're going to join this faction together at some point in time. But anyway, Eddie Guerrero wins the hair versus hair match when Chavo said, you know what? All right, I'll chop my own hair off, which is good. By the way, what was the way that Chavo tapped out against Stevie Ray? Wasn't it like a hammerlock or something?
Who's that, Chavo?
Yeah.
Handshake?
Oh, it was right. Yes, it was the handshake. That's
right. Well, it was a handshake type thumb cripple, whatever you want to call it.
That's so funny. Yeah.
Well, it's so fun because he goes like that to Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray shakes his hand and he goes, falls over.
It got to the point. It's funny because it got to the point where Tenay was trying to pull out some sort of impressive move name for it, but he's like, I can't.
You're not getting out of that, you know what I mean? But that was probably our first ever forte into, you know, Los Guerreros type style stuff, wasn't it? You know what I mean? Which just shows you that that stuff come from Eddie and Chavo, not from the writers in WWE even.
Thankfully. I understand you have millions of dollars that you put towards writing, actually probably billions of dollars put towards writing and generating creativity, but when you have minds that have been in the business, go with them. Experience trumps over everything here.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I'm sure that's why you're still at your job, and that's why I'm at mine. I'm talking with kids that are like 21, 22 years old. I'm asking them where they've worked prior, and they said, in the cafeteria at my college.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, do you know what's scary? Some kids who are 20 odd, you can turn around to them and say, how many jobs have you had? And they'll list about 7. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Well, how is that? That's over the... Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I guess they worked one day at one place and then one day at another place.
Then, it wasn't for me. I had to go and find myself there, so I went to work somewhere else.
I had I had to go find myself while I watch episodes of Naruto.
Yeah, bloody hell.
All right.
All right, well, we'll move on to the next one. So we have the Wolfpack coming out, Conan with Lex Luger and Kevin Nash. Defeated Disco Inferno, who was with Alex Wright. Now, I've just got a bit of a rant with this one. Conan deserves better.
We've discussed this.
You know,
Eh,
for one, Conan was great, but also, where on God's green earth does Conan need all that interruption and all that help to beat Disco Inferno?
Disco's a very good wrestler.
Uh,
People could say whatever they. Oh, Disco is a sound wrestler. Disco understands how to put people over, how to run the business. Disco understands how to really just help out as far as push somebody else's career. And he's got a good mind to it. Not saying that everybody that grabbed the book knew how to write it, but when he was in TNA, he was somebody that was able to pitch ideas. Although, from what I heard, the building idea was either his or Terry Taylor, which is the evil architect. But nevertheless, they work together now on keeping it 100, and they do a good job with it with each other. You could definitely tell they were friends. You could definitely tell that they knew what they were doing.
yeah.
But you're right. It's like, why do we? You can't have. Well, thankfully, we don't have Luger really on the card to work with anything.
No.
But I will say this: I'm looking at it. Like, where is Kevin Nash on this card? You have to have him come out with Conan, and this is what really pissed me off about WCW, and this is why I stopped watching shortly after this. Back in the day, everything was a DQ. Everything had bullshit attached to it. Yes, WCW, WWE did too, but I think the biggest thing is that, like, it's not like The Rock didn't wrestle every Monday, or The Rock wasn't tied to a major storyline. Like, why are you just throwing Kevin Nash in with a mid-card match that has nothing to do with it?
Yeah. I mean, you can say because the Wolfpack thing, I suppose, but just again, it's like, it's just everything with them. It's always that big, long people and everything else. Do you know what I mean?
I think that the composition of the Wolfpack was a smart idea. I think the Wolfpack sucked.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, I like the people that were in it, but I think it just sucked. And Sting being in it too just really was terrible.
Do you know what? With Sting always upset me with that because of the fact that he should never have been on there.
No.
Do you know, because of everything that he done, it was like he should never have been on that Wolfpack, like anything to do with the NWO, because that was the whole point in Sting, wasn't it?
And the fact, right, and here's the funniest part. When they say, oh, he's tied to his old friend Lex Luger, that's what brought him in? Where was that? Like, how come Luger is basically, he was like so pro WCW and then went to the Wolfpack to be anti NWO? You should have never had Luger in the Wolfpack. It brought nothing to it. And if anything, he brought Sting in, which made it even worse. I don't know. You and I could debate about how bad the Wolfpack was because I wasn't a fan. And then didn't Hogan go in there at some point too?
Don't think so. Did he ever go to? I'm sure he didn't go near the Wolfpack, did he?
I think he did. I remember seeing a couple action figures for it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but to me, the Wolfpack. You're right. The Wolfpack mentality of everybody come in and help out. I agree with that, but there's better suited people for this. If anything, the LWO was kind of better with that because you had guys that were underlings, I guess you could say, on the card that would be able to help out. Like, come on. Like, if El Dandy's in there, you kind of want the Vianos to help out on the ringside.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's just one of them, though, isn't it? You know, it's like Sting was just always horrible in there. He should never have been in there.
No.
And like just Luger and stuff like that. It was, it's even like, do you know what annoyed me the most was like Luger getting Alex Wright in the torture rack or whatever. Yeah, was not. It added nothing to that match. Nothing to the match or the outcome of the match.
The torture rack was over, but put it in a match. It's so weird. If you ask me, if you're doing anything on the outside as far as the submission goes, put it towards an angle. Like, have somebody on the steps and break them. Like, look at a guy like Ken Shamrock putting somebody outside and holding a lock in for X amount of time so it breaks the guy's ankle. Like, that's an angle that you tie it into it. I don't understand why they have to have Lex Luger just come out and do the butterflies.
Yeah, yeah. Just I say, but anyway, we spent more than enough time on that match. Conan deserved better.
You and I have had a long overdue talk though going on with the Wolfpack, and I'm glad we were able to. I'm sure we could go into it. That's got to be a roundtable thing that we should discuss with some other peers.
Oh, the Wolfpack, the NWO and Wolfpack could be the whole series, couldn't they? You know what I mean? There's so much that goes on in them things. But we go from the red and black to the white and black now. Of the Giants versus Kevin Green. Kevin Green was really good here.
I love this match. I'm not even kidding you. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Kevin Green was somebody that it was almost like he was a wrestler that just went and played football. And he was a very good football player too. Kevin Green was a very good football player as far as especially when just watching him. I remember him mainly on the Panthers, but my favorite was when he was actually coaching for the Packers. And then he got upset on the sideline when Ahmad Bradshaw ran for about 37 yards to bring them into field goal range. And then there was a Hail Mary that was thrown at halftime during the 2011 season against the Packers from the Giants. So that's my little tiff on him. But Kevin Green was an athlete. Kevin Green was a freak. He's not the only other multi-sport athlete that we'll see in here. Yes, I called wrestling a sport because Logan Paul just called it a sport too. By the way, we'll get on that in a second. But Kevin Green overall, what did you think of him as appearance-wise, looks-wise, and talent-wise?
It looks really good. The only problem I've always got with any of these former NFL guys or whatever like that is the fact that they need to go away from what they were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, McMichael probably was the one that did it the most, where he didn't come across as Mongo McMichael, the footy player. He just, you know what I mean? He kind of got into the character, didn't he, in the end? Yeah.
Yeah. It was better than him when he was carrying around that dog before, which was actually weird for a football player to carry around. I was going to call him Pepe, but he had the little puppy with him too at the announce table. You know that the Giant's going to go over here, but Giant, even to this day, and I'll say it, even to this day, he'll still make people look strong when he's booked.
Yeah, he does, yeah. It does. And Kevin Green looked really good in this, Joe. I mean, the Giant was really good in it. They were really stiff, though, the both of them.
Yeah, I think, but I have a feeling that those are two guys that actually, and I would love to actually ask Big Show about this, working with him, because when you think about it, those are two guys that are used to being hit, and Kevin Green especially, and he probably, I don't know if football players really knew how to ease up. There was times where I remember during the Bam Bam Bigelow and Lawrence Taylor match where LT would hit him, but then kind of weak. And then during the match, I think Bam Bam said, lay it in. I'm serious. Look at the progression of the actual strikes of the match. But anyway, I think I think the Giant was just like, yo, hit me. Like, that's fine. Yeah. You know, lay it in, make it look real. And that's what they did here. This was actually an entertaining match, and I don't have any quarrels with this. If you're going to insert a football player into a one-on-one competition with a wrestler, this is how you do it.
Yeah, fucking right, you do. Fucking right. Well, let's move on anyway. So next one we've got is Rey Mysterio versus Chris Jericho. Bit of an improp match that just come out of nowhere, didn't it, for them? Which was good, to be fair. It was really good. And WCW used to do that. They were the pioneers of this type of thing, weren't they?
Yeah, and it was almost like, yes, it's a quick angle, but it's a returning superstar. Rey Mysterio was on the shelf for a little bit. And then they're going to have him go against probably the man of 1998. And I'll say that. He was the man of 1998. We're still talking about him 25 years later. This is a guy that on TV was probably the most entertaining. He was the most entertaining in that company. That company. So I had to bring that back a little bit. In that company, he was the most entertaining, the most controversial, and somebody that actually gave a damn and made sure that people look good. And he did here, facing against Rey Mysterio. He took the L here. But it didn't matter because he knew that he had greener pastures. And I'm not saying to another company. let's face it, the Malenko feud was going on for a little bit. Did it run a little too long?
Maybe.
No, I think Malenko chased him out after the match here.
He did, yeah. And Arn Anderson come from nowhere with his pocket rocket. Do you know what, though? One thing I will say in this one was the way that when Arn come out at the end and blocked him, it was so simple, but so brilliant.
Yeah, you're right.
He just stood there. He just stood there. He didn't.
It's almost like you don't have to book it that overly done. Like you don't like it's not like you know what they could have done. Do you remember when Crash Holly had the hardcore title, and then he was running throughout that like playland area?
Yeah,
and then the headbangers were going through that. The headbangers were chasing him in the ball pit, and then through the zip line and stuff. What if Jericho went through the curtain and opened up like a playground, like a McDonald's play place? That Jericho had to hop through that.
That would be fun, yeah. All right, well, on to the next match. To getting along this bloody pay-per-view now. Booker T won by disqualification versus, I would say, Bret Hart, but no, it's not really Bret Hart, is it?
It's appropriate that his documentary during that time was Wrestling in Shadows, because WCW Bret Hart was a shadow of his former self.
So sad. So bloody sad.
They ruined him. They could have put any belt on him, which they did. They ruined him right off the bat. Regardless,
putting him in the NWO was just
he wasn't even technically in the NWO at that point. Remember, he was like teetering back and forth, and it was just like, this is the worst melodrama in the world. Like, have him there or don't. It's
no one wants to see him in there either, though I didn't anyway.
Because that wasn't Bret. Bret wasn't about that. And remember, Bret had his own family over at the other place, right? And that was his stable. What represents his family right now? Nothing does in WCW. So I don't understand why they got to lump him in with the NWO. And then the whole, I'm friends with Hogan. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're friends with the guy from WrestleMania 9 that stole your spotlight. Why didn't you go right into that?
No, that would have been perfect.
I just thought of that. I'm sure somebody in the back said, hey, somebody at a booking meeting, WCW probably said, hello, Eric. Hello, I have an idea. What is it? So there's still some animosity that we could draw some buys off of. Oh, yeah? What is it? Well, back in WWE, Bret Hart lost when Mr. Fuji threw salt in his eye. I don't care about that. We're putting Hogan over. Okay. All right. Thank you. That was the meeting.
Fucking right, though, isn't it? But yeah, Bret Hart goes nuts. Stevie Ray comes out and helps him. Looks like, that's about it, really. That's all she wrote on that one.
I get what they're trying to do with Booker T, who looked great. One of the best strikers, one of the most underrated strikers. Every time you and I talk about a match with him, it's been great.
Booker T is great, and obviously you're never going to go miss a beat with Bret Hart, are you?
No. So this was actually a very good match, but it didn't. You could replace Bret Hart with a lot of other people on the card that weren't affiliated with the NWO, and you could still have the same angle with Stevie Ray coming out and saying, "Hey, look, I don't feel bad for you, brother," and then do this turn. Although then again, I think Stevie Ray would go into the NWO and be a part of the B Squad. So he'd come out with the crappy music with Bryan Adams and all those other people.
Yeah.
And Virgil and Vincent.
That's it. Oh, Vincent just done me head in.
No, you know what though? Vincent loves his garlic bread. So we're gonna go into we didn't talk about this prior, but this so we're going into a match now that first off was led up to Kurt Hennig talking with Lee Marshall, who's very underrated, great voice. They're sitting at the computers, and remember, you have AOL and all that stuff. Like, hey, you can interact with the wrestlers on chat. right? Lee Marshall's asking Kurt Hennig, "What's your plan?" "I got a plan. I know how to beat Goldberg." And Lee Marshall goes, "Oh yeah, how is it?" "Experience, duh." And it was just so funny because Lee Marshall's just like, "Oh, okay." Just the face of Lee Marshall there is just like, I'm the Micro Machine Man that's really slowed down, so I'm really calm here.
Yeah. Well, I've got a number of issues with this match. Yeah.
Go on.
So this match, length 3 minutes 50. Booker T Bret Hart match, 8 minutes 28. Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, 6 minutes. Hogan and Rodman versus Ballas Page and Malone, 23 minutes 47 seconds. How on earth can you have them 3 combined matches with a less time than that stupid main event? But we'll get to that in a minute. The other bits that I've got an issue with this one is Kurt Hennig works over Goldberg's legs in the short time that he had. One, you should never be working over the leg if you're going to have such a short match, right? And two, what's the point in working over the leg when straight away Goldberg just jumps up, no sells it, picks you up, spears you, then does the thing for the, and then jackhammers you. What's the point?
That's a valid point right there. You were intending to slow down your opponent, hence slowing down the match and the pace of it. Okay. So
but
somebody
also the fact of, he was going to work on the leg, and I think of Shivani turns around and goes, he won't be able to jackhammer him with that leg. And that was the only time we ever got it acknowledged. And then 2 minutes, like a minute and so later, he's got him up in the jackhammer, no problem, not even a switch.
You're absolutely right. And to further that home, okay, why don't you take a few minutes off of that main event, add it to this match, because you have somebody working the leg, okay? Then show it's okay. You could show a vulnerable point when somebody is getting attacked in a certain area, especially against Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. Okay. Let's say Goldberg brings him up for the jackhammer, and then after that, like all of a sudden, the leg gives out. You've extended the match. You told a story. How is the newly crowned champion going to overcome this?
Yeah, and also you want to get your champion over. You've got somebody like Kurt Hennig who can give him time. He can get a good match out of that, man.
Made no sense, Andy. Made no sense. And furthermore, the fact that on the Monday prior, that's when Goldberg actually won the title. One of the biggest blunders in wrestling history. You mean to tell me that you could have just... I understand with schedules of NBA players in the finals at this point. That the finals would have been done at this point in time for the NBA. But you could have actually milked it throughout the summer of whatever the freaking main event is. You could have had an advertised Hogan versus Goldberg match. Instead, they show clips of that leading up to it.
Yeah.
To me, it is one of the biggest blunders that they ever had in that company. And that's really why the downfall happened. I'm sure I remember I enjoyed it watching it live, but I said, wow, that's weird. And the pay-per-view is Sunday. Just to throw out everything. And then look who interfered in that one too, to help Goldberg win, kind of.
Well, we've got Goldberg wins that one. That's all I've got to say about that. Move on to this main event. Absolute clusterfuck. Hollywood's Hulk Hogan, Dennis Rodman, with Brutus the Barber Beefcake, I will never name him as nothing else, defeated Diamond Dallas Page and Karl Malone in an absolute awful match.
I would have left. I was actually, the more I focused on it, the more I was looking at how many seats I was going to be able to count during this match. I would have said, I'm gone. And I think if you were to say to Ashton, let's leave during this match, do you think he would have said no?
No, he would have.
Really? Okay. Because I
think he would have, because it was so long, so it wouldn't have kept his attention. For two, I think it would have... The way it just got all confused and there was too many people and everything else going on, I think that would have done it as well.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, hello. Hey. got a superstar on the screen. See, this is what he thought of it. No, don't clap. Don't clap.
No, don't. We're not clapping for Karl Malone, okay?
No. But yeah, this match was just an absolute cluster. Screwy finish again. WCW's just main event screwies as always. And then, after that, the one thing I didn't like either is when they walked out and all the NWO were lining up clapping Hogan.
It was so weird.
With Rodman.
But the fact that they actually had to have Beefcake actually come in and do the fake stunner to the guy, or the chart buster, I think WCW would have to call it something. I don't know. To me, it was just so stupid. It's just like, why are you overbooking this crap in this way? And the fact that, let's put it out there, Dennis Rodman is a feature. Dennis Rodman understood the business. Hell, Dennis Rodman was the type of guy that actually, embraced it. He would leave the NBA Finals and practice to go to wrestling, and got in a lot of trouble for that too.
Yeah.
Well, Michael Jordan got really pissed off at him.
Yeah. I mean, he loved wrestling, didn't he, Rodman? But he just loved the pantsuit of it, though, I think, because he just loved it. You know what he's like, marrying himself and all the rest of the stuff he done. I don't even know where he is nowadays. You don't really hear much about him anymore.
He's doing all right.
Is he?
Not Rodman's doing all right. Rodman's doing his appearances in nightclubs. You know what he was doing? You ever heard of the Harlem Globetrotters? The basketball team?
Yeah.
He actually does. He does the Generals, who are the people that always face the Harlem Globetrotters. So he was.
Yeah.
I think he was doing appearances with them. The guy's he was one of the best players ever, one of the best rebounders and toughest guys out there. But does he elevate anything with wrestling? No.
He may bring a few extra eyes to it, but apart from that, he's not going to really do much. He's not like a Tyson. And the other thing is, he's not a Tyson either, in the sense of he doesn't really understand the whole. He doesn't have that overseas appeal, because in the UK we know who Dennis Rodman was because he was dating Carmen Electra.
Wow, I didn't even think of that. That's funny.
Yeah, so we're obviously not big basketball fans over here, are we? So, it's not like we knew who he was. And I mean, nowadays you've had The Last Dance on Netflix and stuff where people probably know him a lot more. But back in the day, we just knew him as the basketball player who was with Carmen Electra. So,
you cared more about her.
But right, anyway, overall, give your thoughts on this pay-per-view and your rating.
This was a dreadful one for me. The booking wise, everything. I'm gonna go with the 5 though. We had some high spots with Hoovy, Kidman, Conan, and Disco. The in-ring stuff I like. I did like Chavo, and I also thought that there were some parts of it where, looking at Booker T, it's, I don't know. It just, this is why I got turned off with late WCW.
Yeah. Well, I think for me I'm going to give it a 5, the same as you. I probably agree. Is one thing that this is abundantly clear, and it's something that WCW always had problem is match placement. So if you would have placed, Raven at first, then you had maybe, Booker Brett, then you had someone, and you then you had Conan versus someone, then you brought us back again with the Huvie Kidman match. Do you know what I mean? If you spread it out a little bit more, it might have actually changed my opinion on this, but it just seems like it got off to a brilliant start and then just went downhill further and further and further.
Do you think that if they flipped the Goldberg and Hogan matches, if they did the placement, do you think it would have turned off a lot of people if you ended the Goldberg match?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
No, yeah, I think it would, and I don't think because of Goldberg. I think if you done that match in its entirety the way it was, then it wouldn't have been great because of the fact that people would have turned off and not even got to the Goldberg match.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I agree with that.
Well, anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you as always. Sorry we've had a bit of a delay, but we will be a bit more consistent from now on. Going to start to look doing some other things on the channel as well, so keep an eye out for them. Dale, what's our poison next week, my friend?
I don't know if I got good poison, bad poison. That girl is poison. We're going to go with not too many to pick from in July. I was going to go with the Fully Loaded, but instead I figured, hey, you might as well do Great American Bash 1990.
Ooh, lovely.
We're going to go back in the time machine a little bit further. So set your watches back to 1990. I don't have the exact date here. July 7th. But overall, yeah, we're going to look at some old and nice stuff too, back in the days where we pined for.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. We will see you again, same time, same place next week. Take care.